Dear viewers, all the images are real and carefully compiled from national archives. The sources of the information presented in the documentary are in the description. You can watch our documentary with peace of mind. February 19th, 1945. 0900 hours. The black volcanic sand of Iwo Jima. Private First Class Robert Dunlap crouches behind a shattered palm stump, 70 yards from the Japanese pillbox. The concrete fortification is silent, deceptively so. Inside, Lieutenant Takeshi Yamamoto and 11 men wait with Type 99 rifles, a Nambu machine gun, and absolute conviction that their position is impregnable. 6 feet of reinforced concrete, interlocking fields of fire, escape tunnels leading deep into the volcanic rock. They've held this position for 3 days, repelling 2 Marine assaults and killing 19 Americans. What happens next will redefine modern warfare. The M2 flamethrower shouldn't work. That's what Japanese intelligence officers concluded when rumors first reached Imperial General Headquarters in late 1944. A man-portable weapon that could project burning fuel over 130 feet? Impossible. The engineering requirements alone, containing napalm-thickened fuel under sufficient pressure, designing an ignition system that wouldn't kill the operator, creating a portable tank that wouldn't rupture under combat conditions, were deemed insurmountable by Japanese military analysts who'd spent years perfecting their own static flamethrower installations. But the Americans had done it anyway. The M2 weighed 70 pounds fully loaded. 2 cylinders mounted in an aluminum frame, one containing 4 gallons of thickened gasoline mixed with diesel fuel, the other compressed nitrogen to provide propulsion. The operator carried it like a backpack, connected by armored hoses to a pistol grip wand with a trigger-activated ignition system. Effective range, 130 feet. Duration, approximately 10 seconds of continuous flame. Temperature at point of impact, 1800 degrees Fahrenheit. Private Dunlap had trained with the M2 for 6 weeks at Camp Pendleton. He'd burn targets, watched the orange-black flames surge forward like a living thing, felt the heat wash back even from 70 feet away. He'd memorized the manual. Aim low, sweep upward, don't stop moving. The flame takes 2 seconds to reach maximum range. In combat, 2 seconds is eternity. He'd also attended the classified briefing, where a Marine Corps intelligence officer showed them captured Japanese documents. "They don't believe you exist," the officer had said, holding up translated pages. "Their defensive doctrine doesn't account for mobile flamethrowers. They've built positions assuming the only threat is rifle fire, grenades, and maybe satchel charges. They're about to learn otherwise." Now, on Iwo Jima's nightmare landscape, Dunlap prepares to provide that education. Corporal James Mitchell crouches beside him, M1 Garand ready. "On your word," Mitchell says. His job is simple. Keep Japanese riflemen from shooting Dunlap while he works. The flamethrower operator is the most vulnerable man in any Marine squad. Slow-moving, carrying explosive fuel, unable to use his weapon defensively. He requires constant protection. "Covering fire in 3, Dunlap says. 2, 1. The squad opens up. 8 Marines pour rifle fire into the pillbox's firing ports, not expecting to hit anything, but forcing the defenders to keep their heads down. Dunlap rises and moves forward in a crouching run, the flamethrower's weight pulling at his shoulders, his boots sliding in the volcanic sand. 60 yards. 50. 40. Inside the pillbox, Lieutenant Yamamoto hears the shooting change tempo. He's been in combat since Manchuria. He knows the sound of suppressive fire versus aimed shots. The Americans are covering something. He risks a glance through the firing port, sees a figure moving forward with something wrong about his silhouette, something bulky and mechanical strapped to his back. Recognition hits like ice water. "Flamethrower." Yamamoto shouts in Japanese, "Get down." "Seal the." Dunlap reaches 30 yards, drops to one knee, and squeezes the trigger. The ignition system sparks. Pressurized fuel erupts from the nozzle, ignites midair, and becomes a stream of liquid fire that defies everything human instincts understand about flame. This isn't the flickering orange of a campfire or even the roar of a house fire. This is industrial-grade combustion, a physics-defying arc of napalm-thickened fuel that maintains cohesion across impossible distances, splashing against the pillbox's firing port like burning honey. The flame finds the opening, pours inside, fills the concrete chamber with superheated air and burning fuel that adheres to everything it touches: walls, weapons, skin, lungs. Lieutenant Yamamoto has 3 seconds to understand what's happening. The temperature inside the pillbox surges past 500 degrees instantly. The air itself becomes toxic, consuming oxygen, replacing it with carbon monoxide and superheated gases. Men scream, but their lungs are already seared. The Nambu machine gun's wooden stock ignites. Ammunition begins cooking off in a staccato of secondary explosions. Yamamoto tries to reach the escape tunnel, but his uniform is burning. His hands are burning. His face is burning. He falls against the concrete wall, which is now hot enough to cook flesh on contact. The last thing he sees is orange-black flame washing across the ceiling like a terrible tide. From outside, Dunlap maintains pressure for 4 seconds, half his available fuel. Then he releases the trigger. The flame dies instantly, cut off midstream. Black smoke pours from the pillbox's firing ports and ventilation openings. No return fire. No movement. Clear, Mitchell confirms, advancing with his rifle ready. The squad moves up. Inside the pillbox, 12 Japanese soldiers are dead. Some from burns, others from asphyxiation. None had time to escape. The position that held against 2 conventional assaults was neutralized in under 10 seconds. This scene repeats across Iwo Jima with mathematical precision. The Japanese defensive strategy was brilliant in theory. After devastating losses in the Marianas and Philippines, Imperial General Headquarters had refined their doctrine. No more bonsai charges, no more wasted assaults. Instead, they would build fortifications so extensive, so deeply interconnected, that American forces would be bled white trying to advance yard by yard. Iwo Jima was the masterpiece of this philosophy. Under Lieutenant General Tadamaki Kurabayashi's command, Japanese engineers spent 8 months transforming the volcanic island into a fortress. They excavated 11 miles of tunnels, connecting 1,500 fortified positions. They built pillboxes with 6-foot-thick concrete walls, positioned them for interlocking fields of fire, disguised them with volcanic rock and vegetation. They created underground barracks that could house 500 men, hospitals carved into stone, ammunition depots deep enough to survive naval bombardment. Every position had multiple firing ports. Every tunnel had multiple exits. Every strong point was designed to require multiple American casualties to capture. Kurabayashi calculated that his 21,000 defenders could hold Iwo Jima for at least 6 months, inflicting 30,000 American casualties in the process. He'd accounted for everything: naval gunfire, aerial bombardment, tank assaults, infantry charges, satchel charges, grenades, artillery. Everything except the M2 flamethrower. Corporal Hisashi Tanaka commanded a defensive position on the northern end of Iwo Jima, a complex of 3 interconnected bunkers positioned to cover the approach to Hill 382. His position was, by any conventional military standard, impregnable. The main bunker featured walls 18 inches of concrete reinforced with steel salvaged from destroyed ships. The firing ports were narrow slits that provided excellent fields of fire while minimizing exposure. An escape tunnel led 40 yards to a secondary position. Tanaka had ammunition for 3 weeks, water for 2, and orders to hold until death. On February 28th, 9 days into the battle, his position was still intact. He'd successfully repelled 4 marine assaults, inflicting an estimated 20 casualties. His Type 96 machine gun had excellent range. His riflemen were disciplined. He'd reported to his commanding officer that his section could hold indefinitely. At 1,400 hours, he watched through his firing port as a Marine unit assembled for another assault. Standard pattern: riflemen providing covering fire, a demolition team probably planning to approach with satchel charges. Tanaka positioned his men, ensured the machine gun had a clear field of fire, prepared for another successful defense. Then he saw the figure with the unusual silhouette. "What is that?" one of his soldiers asked, pointing at the Marine carrying the bulky equipment. Tanaka had seen photographs in an intelligence briefing 3 months ago, grainy images of what analysts claimed was a portable flamethrower. He dismissed it as American propaganda. Such a weapon was technically unfeasible. The photographs must have been staged or showed a static installation misidentified as portable. But the Marine was moving forward, and that equipment was definitely real, and the shape matched those dismissed intelligence photographs exactly. "Target that man," Tanaka ordered. The one with. The Marine dropped to a firing position 70 yards away. Too far for effective rifle fire in these conditions, especially with covering fire forcing Tanaka's men to keep their heads down. The Marine aimed his nozzle-equipped wand at the bunker. Tanaka had 1 second to pray it was something else, some new type of smoke projector or demolition device, anything except what the photographs had shown. The flame hit like judgment itself. It poured through the firing port. Impossible. That flame shouldn't maintain cohesion at that distance, shouldn't squeeze through a 6-inch opening, shouldn't fill the entire bunker in seconds. But it did all those things with industrial efficiency. The temperature surge was instantaneous. Tanaka's uniform ignited before he could process what was happening. The man beside him, Private Yoshida, was engulfed so quickly he didn't have time to scream. The machine gun's ammunition belt began cooking off, bullets ricocheting inside the concrete chamber. Tanaka stumbled toward the escape tunnel, his hands blistered, his vision blurring from heat and smoke. He made it 3 steps before his lungs gave out, not from burns, but from breathing superheated air that had been 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit seconds ago. He collapsed against the tunnel entrance, dying not from the flame itself, but from its secondary effects: heat stroke, asphyxiation, toxic gas inhalation. The bunker that was supposed to hold for weeks was neutralized in 7 seconds. In the secondary bunker, connected by tunnels, Sergeant Kenji Watanabe heard the screaming and the ammunition cooking off. He'd been trained on how to respond to various attacks: naval bombardment, artillery, infantry assault. Nothing in his training covered this. He ordered his men to seal the tunnel entrance connecting to Tanaka's position, but the flames had already compromised the structural integrity. Smoke poured through gaps in the stone. Then he heard the Marines above ground, moving toward his firing ports. Another flamethrower operator. This time, Watanabe saw it clearly. The distinctive silhouette, the wand-like nozzle, the ignition trigger. "Out!" he screamed. "Use the escape tunnel. Now!" His 7 men scrambled for the exit, abandoning their weapons, abandoning their position, abandoning everything except the primal need to not burn alive in a concrete box. They emerged from the tunnel exit 40 yards away, right into a prepared Marine ambussage. Riflemen had anticipated exactly this response. Of course, the Japanese would flee when faced with flame. All 7 were killed within seconds of reaching daylight. Watanabe, slower to move, was still inside when the second flamethrower burst hit his bunker. The flame found him in the tunnel, clinging to the walls, following the oxygen flow. He died trying to crawl away from fire that moved faster than any human could run. 3 interconnected positions, designed for mutual support, held by 14 men with excellent weapons and strong morale. Planned defensive capability, hold for days or weeks. Actual survival time against flamethrower-equipped Marines, 11 minutes from first engagement to complete neutralization. This pattern repeated across Iwo Jima's tortured landscape with mechanical precision. Sergeant Robert Schwartz carried the M2 flamethrower for 18 days on Iwo Jima. He destroyed 47 fortified positions. He killed, by conservative estimate, 214 Japanese soldiers. After the war, he would need 17 years of sporadic therapy to sleep through the night without waking up remembering their screams. It wasn't like shooting someone, he told a Veterans Administration psychiatrist in 1962. When you shoot a man, it's instant usually. Maybe he drops, maybe he doesn't, but it's quick. The flamethrower. They had time to know what was happening. They had time to be afraid. You could hear them. Even over the flame roar, you could hear them. The M2 was psychologically devastating in both directions, to those who faced it and those who wielded it. For Japanese defenders, the flamethrower represented an existential horror that transcended conventional combat fear. A soldier can mentally prepare for being shot, stabbed, or blown apart by artillery. These deaths, while terrible, fit within understood parameters of warfare. But burning, being cooked alive inside a concrete box, feeling your skin blister and char, breathing air so hot it sears your lungs from the inside, this was medieval horror weaponized with modern efficiency. Captured Japanese documents from Iwo Jima, translated after the battle, revealed the psychological impact. One lieutenant's diary, recovered from a destroyed bunker, contained final entry dated March 4th. The Americans have brought fire itself to battle. Not grenades or explosives, but actual fire that flows like water and sticks to everything. Our positions, which we believed could withstand anything, are useless. The men are terrified in a way I have never seen. When they see the flamethrower operators approaching, some abandon their positions without orders. Others freeze completely, unable to fire their weapons. Yesterday, Private Harada shot himself rather than face burning. I did not report it or punish his squad. I understand his choice. The diary ended there. The lieutenant's body was found with 11 others in the bunker, all killed by flamethrower strike later that same day. For Marine operators, the psychological toll was different but equally severe. They were the most targeted men on Iwo Jima. Japanese soldiers quickly learned to identify the distinctive silhouette of the M2 and prioritized killing flamethrower operators above all other targets. Snipers hunted them specifically. Machine gunners tracked them constantly. The average life expectancy of a flamethrower operator in heavy combat was measured in minutes. Private Eugene Sledge, who carried the M2 during the later Okinawa campaign, described the experience in his memoir. You felt like you had a target painted on your back. Every Japanese soldier on the battlefield wanted you dead more than anyone else, because you represented something they couldn't defend against. And you absolutely knew, that if one bullet hit your fuel tank, you'd go up like a torch. You'd burn to death wearing your own weapon. The fuel cylinders were theoretically safe, multiple layers of protection, pressure release valves, fire-resistant coating. In practice, a direct hit from rifle fire could puncture the tank. Not every puncture caused catastrophic failure, but some did. The Marine Corps kept these statistics classified until 1953. Approximately 4% of flamethrower operators on Iwo Jima died from their own fuel igniting after enemy fire hit their tanks. That's 1 in 25. Those odds concentrate the mind wonderfully. Then there was the moral weight of the weapon itself. Corporal David Bellamy, who operated an M2 during the cave-clearing operations in northern Iwo Jima, described shooting enemy soldiers as honest killing. Them or me, both of us armed. Both of us trying to win. But using the flamethrower felt different. You're not giving them a chance, he told an interviewer in 1987. You're exterminating them. That's the word that kept coming to me. Extermination. Like they were insects, not men. I did it because it saved American lives, because it was necessary, because my officers ordered it. But I never felt clean about it. The Japanese recognized this psychological dimension and attempted to weaponize it. Loudspeaker broadcasts from Japanese positions would sometimes address flamethrower operators directly in English. Marine with fire weapon, you are not a soldier. You are a murderer. You will burn in hell for what you do. Your own men fear you. They know you are cursed. Sometimes, when a flamethrower operator was killed, Japanese soldiers would drag his body to a visible location and mutilate it specifically. A warning and revenge against the weapon they feared most. Despite all this, the M2 remained devastatingly effective precisely because of its psychological impact. Fortifications became death traps instead of sanctuaries. Defenders who might have held for hours against conventional assault broke after minutes under flame attack. The weapon's very horror made it militarily invaluable. By March 1945, the U.S. Marine Corps had refined flamethrower tactics into a systematic doctrine. Every rifle company had at least 3 M2 operators, organized into specialized assault teams. The tactical pattern became standardized. reconnaissance to identify fortified positions, smoke grenades for concealment, suppressive fire from supporting infantry, flamethrower advance under covering fire, flame strike, immediate follow-up by demolition teams or riflemen to clear survivors. The average time to neutralize a fortified Japanese position dropped from hours to minutes. Lieutenant Colonel Justice Jumping Joe Chambers commanded 3rd Battalion, 25th Marines on Iwo Jima. His unit faced some of the most heavily fortified sectors of the island, including the infamous Turkey Knob complex, a warren of interconnected bunkers and tunnels that intelligence estimated would require a week to clear. Chambers assigned 18 flamethrower operators to his battalion, triple the standard allocation, and developed specialized tactics for their employment. "We treated the flamethrower like mobile artillery," he explained in a post-battle report. "You don't send artillery forward without infantry support, and you don't send flamethrower operators forward without carefully planned fire support. But once in position, they deliver more destructive power against fortifications than any other man-portable weapon system." Turkey Knob fell in 14 hours. Casualties: 38 Marines killed, 97 wounded. Estimated Japanese defenders killed, 420. Pre-battle estimates had projected 200 Marine casualties and a week of fighting. The flamethrower, employed systematically, had reduced both time and casualties by roughly 70%. This tactical revolution extended beyond immediate combat effectiveness. The flamethrower fundamentally altered Japanese defensive calculations. Captured officers, interrogated after the battle, revealed that by late February, Japanese commanders were ordering changes to fortification design specifically to counter flamethrowers, narrower firing ports, sealed ventilation systems, escape tunnels with multiple turns to prevent flame penetration, positioning of defenders further from entrances. None of it worked effectively. Narrower firing ports meant reduced fields of fire, making bunkers easier to approach. Sealed ventilation meant defenders risked asphyxiation from their own gun smoke during sustained firing. Complex escape tunnels still had openings where Marines could introduce flame or explosives. The defensive adaptations often created as many problems as they solved. Major Yoshitaka Hori, senior staff officer for the Iwo Jima garrison, survived the battle and later wrote, "The flamethrower negated all our defensive planning. We had designed positions to maximize firepower while minimizing vulnerability to conventional weapons. But flame doesn't care about concrete thickness or interlocking fields of fire. It flows like water, finds every opening, kills not through penetration but through heat and asphyxiation. Our men were brave, our positions were strong, but courage and reinforced concrete mean nothing against a weapon that turns your defensive position into a crematorium." The tactical advantage extended to cave warfare, where traditional weapons were least effective. Iwo Jima's volcanic geology created countless caves, which Japanese engineers expanded into defensive positions. Clearing caves conventionally required demolition charges, grenades, and clearing teams entering confined spaces against entrenched defenders, slow, dangerous, casualty-intensive work. Flamethrowers changed the equation entirely. Sergeant Howard Peterson's squad was assigned to clear a cave complex on Hill 382. Intelligence estimated 12 to 15 Japanese soldiers inside, well armed, with excellent defensive positions in the cave's deeper chambers. Standard doctrine would have required grenades, satchel charges, potentially sending men into the cave under fire. High risk, uncertain outcome. Peterson positioned as flamethrower operator, Corporal William Jenkins, at the cave entrance. "Full burn," he ordered. "Pour it all in." Jenkins discharged his entire fuel load, approximately 4 gallons of thickened napalm mixture, into the cave opening in 2 sustained bursts. The flame didn't need to reach the deepest chambers. It superheated the air throughout the entire cave system, consumed oxygen, filled interconnected passages with toxic gases and smoke. Temperature inside the cave surged to over 600 degrees in the main chamber, over 400 in the deepest recesses. When Marines entered the cave 20 minutes later, wearing gas masks, they found 14 Japanese soldiers dead. None showed external burns. All had died from asphyxiation or heat stroke. The cave that might have required hours to clear and cost multiple American lives had been neutralized in approximately 90 seconds without a single Marine casualty. This tactical success at the small unit level scaled up to operational impact. Iwo Jima, which pre-invasion estimates suggested would require 7 days to secure, was declared secured after 36 days. While many factors contributed, naval gunfire support, close air support, numerical superiority, post-battle analysis credited flamethrower units with reducing the campaign duration by approximately 1 week and saving an estimated 600 American lives. The cost: 73 flamethrower operators killed in action. Average age 21. Average time spent in combat role before death 9 days. While Marines refined flamethrower tactics on Iwo Jima, U.S. military engineers were already developing next-generation systems. The M2, deadly as it was, had significant limitations: short duration, vulnerability of operators, limited range, weight. Research teams at the Chemical Warfare Service laboratories in Maryland worked on solutions. The M2-2 variant introduced improved pressure system that extended range to nearly 200 feet. The M3 model, rushed into production for Okinawa, featured a larger fuel capacity and redesigned ignition system. Experimental prototypes explored alternative fuel mixtures, electric ignition, even dual fuel systems that could switch between napalm for maximum effect and straight diesel for extended duration. Japanese engineers, meanwhile, attempted counter-innovations. Defensive positions in later battles featured water sprinkler systems designed to douse incoming flame. Though these proved largely ineffective, napalm-thickened fuel wasn't easily extinguished by water. They experimented with asbestos-lined bunker interiors, which helped marginally but couldn't prevent the temperature and oxygen depletion effects. They developed anti-flame teams equipped with extended-reach demolition charges intended to destroy flamethrower operators before they could close to effective range. Nothing worked reliably. The fundamental physics favored the flamethrower. Projected flame could reach targets faster than defenders could respond. Heat effects were nearly instantaneous, and in closed defensive positions, the very design feature that made bunkers effective against conventional weapons became liabilities against flame. By Okinawa in April 1945, Japanese defensive doctrine had evolved further. Commanders increasingly avoided static defensive positions in favor of mobile defense and counterattacks. When fortifications were necessary, they positioned them deeper underground, with extended escape routes and multiple exits. The tactical effectiveness of fortifications, measured by how long they delayed American advances per defender casualty, declined throughout the Okinawa campaign. The flamethrower had fundamentally altered Pacific War combat doctrine. The M2 flamethrower saw its final combat use in the Pacific Theater in August 1945, during the last weeks before Japanese surrender. Over 8 months of island-hopping campaigns, Marine flamethrower units destroyed an estimated 4,000 Japanese fortified positions, killed approximately 23,000 enemy soldiers, and reduced average American casualties in bunker-clearing operations by an estimated 65%. 317 flamethrower operators died in combat. 241 were wounded. Their average age was 21 years, 4 months. Many survivors carried psychological scars for decades afterward. Nightmares about burning men, guilt over the nature of their weapon, hypervigilance that never quite faded. Japanese survivors carry different scars. Thousands of soldiers, scarred by burns or half-blinded by flame and smoke, returned to Japan after the war. Many more never returned at all, their final moments spent in concrete chambers that became ovens, dying not from external wounds, but from superheated air and asphyxiation. In post-war interviews, former Japanese soldiers consistently cited the flamethrower as the weapon they feared most, more than artillery, more than tanks, more than naval bombardment. The M2 transformed modern warfare by proving that even the most sophisticated fortifications could be neutralized by a single soldier carrying 70 pounds of burning fuel. It demonstrated that technological innovation could provide asymmetric advantages even against numerically equivalent forces in strong defensive positions. It showed that psychological warfare and physical destruction could be unified in a single weapon system. It also raised ethical questions that persist today. The flamethrower was never banned by international convention during World War II, but modern protocols severely restrict its use against combatants. The weapon's indiscriminate nature. It kills by heat and oxygen depletion, causing slow and agonizing deaths, places it in a legally and morally complex category. Its effectiveness cannot be questioned. Whether it should be used remains debated. In February 2005, 60 years after Iwo Jima, a reunion of Pacific War veterans included both American Marines and Japanese soldiers who had fought there. Robert Dunlap, the flamethrower operator from our opening scene, met Takashi Nakamura, who had survived a flamethrower attack on Hill 382 by escaping through a tunnel seconds before flame filled his bunker. "I would have killed you if I could," Nakamura said through a translator. "I know," Dunlap replied. "I'm grateful you couldn't." "Your weapon was terrible," Nakamura continued. "Worse than anything else we faced." "I know," Dunlap said again. Then, after a long pause, "I'm sorry you had to face it. I'm glad I never had to." They shook hands. Two old men, carrying memories of fire and concrete, and young men screaming in bunkers 3/4 of a century ago. The handshake didn't erase those memories. Nothing could, but acknowledged shared humanity beneath the horror of the weapon that had defined their war. The M2 flamethrower remains in military museums now, behind glass, a relic of a war fought with tools that seem medieval in their brutality, despite their modern engineering. Veterans walk past the displays sometimes, recognizing the distinctive silhouette, remembering weight and heat and screaming, remembering what happens when innovation and desperation combine to create weapons that work precisely because they horrify, remembering fire poured into concrete boxes full of young men who never came home.